Good afternoon, all you cool cats and kittens. Happy Thursday, September 21st. You can see the agenda for today. We are talking about socioeconomic and sociocultural influences on child development. This will be a very brief video, as the obvious influences of such do not require much elaboration. And when we are done today, you have the chapter 2 reading guide to complete, because we're not doing any new work tomorrow because we have a shortened period as a result of the Homecoming Pep Fest. I've just decided to assign you the entire chapter 1 reading guide, which I think will be relatively interesting to you because it is talking about the development of a child in the womb and the teratogens that can have a negative impact on child development within the womb. But I'll get to more of that a little bit later. Let's talk about socioeconomic and sociocultural influences of child development. I mean, these are pretty straightforward. We spend a lot of time talking about nature and nurture. You are born with something, but the nurture, the environment has a significant impact. Right? When we're looking at the development of children from an analytical standpoint, there's two ways where you can analyze the influence of a child's development. You can do it comparing one country to another country or one culture to another culture. That is the socio-cultural context. It's going to look at the physical environment. It's going to look at the social environment. It's going to look at the cultural environment, the economic environment, historical circumstances of a particular country or group of people, right? This is how we can see comparisons between us and the United States.
Students interested in doing the fire sports program may be excused at 10 o'clock to go to the Spartan Center to meet with Mr. Sakala. Again, students interested in the fire and sports program, they may be excused at 10 o'clock to go to the Spartan Center. Thank you.
Children in the United States and children in China. How is capitalism versus communism going to affect the development of children? How is a culture focused on independence and equality going to affect the children in comparison to the children developing in a country that is very dominated and dominant by men, where the focus is placed on male children? How is the development of a child going to be affected if it is an industrialized economy versus an agrarian economy, right? It allows for comparison between two distinctly groups of people from completely different cultures. We know that the environment, the nurture, has a significant influence on the development of children. Socioculture allows us to see how that development is different, right, from one country to the next. Socioeconomic status, I'm sure you've heard of this term before. Socioeconomic status allows us to compare the development that is experienced in children from different income and educational groups within the country, within one culture, within one group of people. Socioculture is a much broader comparison, Group A versus Group B, two different countries. Socioeconomic is Group A and Group B within the same group of people, within the same culture. We know that education has an influence on child development. We know that wealth has an influence on child development. Socioeconomic status allows us to compare groups of people within the same country. I know that your textbook has two more sections that you've glanced over or read through regarding the development of children and the themes at which we analyze child development. One is asking you about how children become so different if they're raised in the same home, right? What allows for individual difference? I don't think we need to elaborate on that. We've talked about that a lot so far this year. We also saw it in that video. We know that it's 1% of our genetics is different from the other people around us. 99% of us are exactly the same, but it's that 1%, right? That's the nature component of it. We know the influence of our environment, the nurture. That's what accounts for why we're so different. The 1% being different and the environments that we're in, the environments that we're exposed to, that cause a significant difference. And obviously, we've already talked about the last theme of child psychology or child development. Why do we research it? Well, we research it because we want to know how best to help children, regardless of what their current situation is. Right. So I don't think we need to have any notes on that. You do have the chapter 2 reading guide. All right. Chapter 2 reading guide is pretty straightforward. We are looking at the development of children, quite literally from conception all the way through birth. You've got the reading guide here. You've got the reading itself embedded. So you probably want to have 2 screens here so you can do it expeditiously. Just like the previous reading guide, there are sections that are specified, page numbers that are laid out so you kind of know where information is to be found, but it kind of walks you through how we get from an embryo all the way up to having a little tiny fetus or eventually baby that is born, right? So it walks you through the stages of development. It walks you through any sort of learning processes that may occur during pregnancy. And then it gets into the hazards of prenatal development. And it talks about certain teratogons that have an influence on child development. Not very question heavy, right? I don't have a question for every paragraph. I don't think I need to do it. I mean, I would imagine this is going to be a pretty informative, interesting reading for you to complete. I'll stress that it is important, and although there isn't a question for every single topic and a question for every single paragraph, it is something that you want to read. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves here. You guys are 16, 17, 18 years old, right? You're either already sexually active or you're at a point in your life where you will be sexually active in short order in the near future, right? It'll just happen. Like, you're at that stage of life. You're also at the stage of life where, as we've talked about in previous lessons, your decision-making processes, the part of the brain that controls your decision-making processes, as well as the part of your brain that controls your reasoning and emotions and impulses, isn't fully developed. So not to, try to scare you or not to intimidate you, right? This is not, the little clip from the Mean Girls movie, which was fantastic if you haven't seen it, right? I'm not going to tell you that if you have sex, you will contract an STD and you will die. I'm not saying that. But obviously you're coming into a point of life where you're going to be faced with these choices. So you need to be informed about potential consequences, potential dangers, that could not just affect you, but obviously potentially affect, another person should a pregnancy happen. So I would encourage you to read this. I would encourage you to get this information. So you are well prepared to make informed, safe, responsible decisions. Because at this point in your life, you are no longer making decisions that just affect you. You are making decisions that will potentially affect other people. And as we've discussed thus far in the first few weeks of class, we know that any and every sort of environmental change, any and every sort of environmental influence does have an impact on how a child develops. So you're going to read this relatively closely, and we'll start talking about this when I am back on Monday. You have the rest of today to finish this assignment, and you have tomorrow to finish this assignment. So plenty of time between today, Thursday, and tomorrow, Friday, to knock this out. And again, this is due, the entire chapter is due Monday at 2:30. So with that, get it done so you can enjoy your weekend. I know it's homecoming. You got a game today. You have a dance on, check that. You have a game tomorrow on Friday, and you have a dance on Saturday. So get your responsibilities taken care of so you can enjoy your weekend. Happy homecoming, safe, smart choices this weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Go Spartans.